Yay! Well, hello, everybody. I am so happy about our guest today, and I'm here with my co-founders, Nichole and Chelsea of Visionary Blueprint. And we just want to let you guys know a little bit about what we're doing. So, our first call a couple weeks ago was just all about what we're trying to do here, and we really want to hear what topics you guys are interested in learning more about, what areas you're feeling like you're having struggles in and successes in. And we're here really to just connect as women entrepreneurs and help each other and provide value and resources and just anything we can do to help get us all to the next level collectively. So, um, today we have Trish Saemann. She is the founder of GoBeyond SEO, and Trish and I actually met at a dinner that I was hosting a couple weeks ago, and I was blown away. I came and told Nichole and Chelsea, and like right after, I was like, I was so impressed by this woman. Seriously, Trish, just like the little tidbits of advice you were giving to the other women at the table on things that they were just saying their struggles, and Trish was like, "Oh, you could try this." Or did it it's not like she had some time to prepare for this or anything. It was just very on the spot things that were coming to her head that she thought could be helpful to these other women, and I was just like, "Man, this lady knows her stuff and is so impressive, and like we need her on this podcast." And so I'm very grateful. I know we're all super grateful to have you here, Trish. And so without further ado, if you would just introduce yourself a little further and tell us about you and how you got into all of this.
Sure. Before I get into that, I just want to point out as well that Kacey, you curated an environment where a conversation like that could happen. It was really one of the strongest events I've ever attended. So before I get into like all who I am and all that good stuff, um, there are environments where people might not feel the comfort to speak up or to connect with the other professionals that were there, and you curated an environment that created that. So I just want to give you props for that as well, because it's not as easy as it looks, and you made it look very seamless and very easy. So I just wanted to say it was a lovely event. So just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Okay, and what was the question? Oh, who am I? Okay, so I founded GoBeyond SEO in 2009, so it's been a minute. I always joke around and say that my company is in 10th grade because I was nursing my second kid when we founded the company. Prior to that, I worked for CBS and Chrysler, and I had done a lot of marketing. I have a degree in marketing and all that good stuff. And we started this digital marketing firm on the heels of when digital marketing was something that was like an add-on, and people were still doing a lot of their marketing through print, believe it or not, and TV and radio. And then all of a sudden, the fad that was the internet was taking the world by storm, and we all know how that worked out. So, what I can say though, and what I've really loved to extrapolate from my experience, in broadcast, as they call it, to now digital marketing, is that the fundamentals really don't change. So, I've really been able to apply some of the knowledge that I've gotten, but ultimately, when you have a strong foundation and the fundamentals don't change, the apparatus that you use really, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much in the absence of not having those fundamentals. So, yeah, what else do you want to know? Let's see. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in New York. I don't know if any of that matters. Yeah, we've been in business 15 years. It's really wild to say that out loud.
That's
It's
amazing.
yes, and I feel like I don't know if I'll ever be suited to. I'm a very good collaborator, but I don't know if I could ever work for anybody again. I feel like I'm like an outdoor cat. Like I don't think that I could be brought inside and like function again as a real person. So
I
yeah,
love that reference. As a fellow New Yorker, Chelsea and I are
right.
with you. And so heard you mention kind of like the fundamentals are the same, whether you're doing print, whether you're doing social media.
Right.
What would you say are like the fundamentals that help guide that process?
Sure. I actually distilled it down because I've kind of spoken about it in piecemeal situations, but I kind of distilled it down and I kind of narrowed it down to a series of the letter M. So the first one is the mindset, not only the mindset of the of the actual company and the company owner, but who it is that you serve. Because ultimately, when we're selling, whether it's a product or a service, you're serving them in some way. So what's the mindset of the people who are actually going to be buying from you? What's the reason behind their purchase? What emotion are you going to give them? And the second M is your market. Like, who is it that you're actually targeting, and not just who are they? Are they like somebody like me who's, a white American woman in her 40s? That's not the same thing as another white American woman who's in her 40s. Like, what's motivating me versus what's motivating somebody else depends on what I'm buying. So knowing your market and who they are from a demographic standpoint, but also psychographic and motivation standpoint. And then the third one is message. Like, what message are you sending them? And is that message something of urgency? Is it something that's going to make them feel good, make them feel bad, make them feel scared, make them feel something? And is the message that you're sending something that's like, hey, buy this necklace, it's so hot and you'll be hot too? Or is it something that requires an education? Like, oh, we've created this new Flugelbinder and it's going to change your life. You're like, what the hell's a Flugelbinder? I need to be educated, which leads to the next M, which is medium, or in some cases, media. So is it that your message can sit on a billboard? We've got 7 words and somebody's driving by at 70 miles an hour. Or is it something that requires a blog post where you actually need to educate somebody? So the fundamental of where you're actually going to put that message matters. And then money. How are you going to monetize it? So how are you making money with this? How is that working? And then my kind of add-on after that is measure and manage. How are you managing all of these different things? How are you determining if your market has changed or their motivation has changed? And then is the monetization that you're having here like, oh, I really want to sell these, but these have a better profit margin. It's like, okay, they do. But is the profit margin, oh, I make an 80% profit margin on this. Isn't that awesome? Well, cool. But is an 80% profit margin $2? Because if that it is, then maybe you need to sell some of these, because even though the margin percentage is lower, the amount you actually net is higher. So those, in my opinion, are the true fundamentals of an effective marketing campaign, and how doesn't really matter what happens around those things. If you don't get those pieces right, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. So yeah.
Trish, when you say your market, who you're marketing to, would you say it's more important to target a niche audience or cast a wider net, or do both?
No, it's really great. And I would say for small businesses, you're better off with a target audience. And the reason why is because you can customize your message to be more effective, and also not necessarily spend as much when you're casting to a wide net. So going back to when I was in broadcast, it was always interesting because like there were radio stations. You had like your top 100 radio stations where they'd always have the latest pop singer in there and stuff like that. Or you had like your talk radio, which was usually like a sports radio or maybe politics radio. And those audiences are actually much smaller than the top 40. So you're like, oh, well, this message is going to go out to everybody and I'm going to make mad cash, right? Not necessarily, because that audience isn't terribly engaged. However, sports, you get some of these guys that are sitting there like, you've got a couple of New Yorkers in here. We may have a Subway Series this year. Could happen. We don't know. We might have the New York Yankees versus the New York Mets, which the rest of the country is like, who cares? But
like, I don't know what that means.
Right. Like, who even cares? Like, whatever. But you get like baseball nut jobs, particularly baseball nut jobs from New York. They are going to be tuned in on a level that matters. So do you target all baseball fans, or do you target just Yankee fans? So it really just depends. So I would say that if you're trying to manage your budget, I would say even though you have other markets, I would say niche down with your marketing. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to give you an analogy. So let's say you own a hair salon. Okay, so you've got a hair salon, and what's in your hair salon? You've got a bunch of booths where people are getting their hair done, and maybe you've got some product behind the counter. You've got shampoo, and you've got, combs, hairbrushes, mousse, whatever else, right? And then you have a bald dude walk into your hair salon. So my question to you is, would you sell to him? It sounds like a trick question. I want to make money, so I'll sell to whoever wants to come in. You want to buy stuff, man, I don't care how much hair you have. It's not my problem. What I will not do is market to bald men, because he might come in. So for me, in the niches are the riches. You're much better off, particularly as like, unless you're Walmart, like, and they have a niche too, but their niche is pretty wide. Unless you're Walmart, I would say in the niches are the riches. And when you're going to spend your marketing dollars, niche down. Who you sell to, that's a little different. Who you market to, niche down. So I hope that helps. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And
Yeah.
that analogy is kind of funny. I was like, oh, maybe he's buying for his wife.
Right, you never know. Maybe he's buying for his
Yeah.
daughter. Maybe he's buying for his dog. Maybe he's trying to buy products because he's trying to figure out what's going to work best for him, and he's going to open his own salon. Ooh, and then he's competition. Sell to him anyway. Doesn't matter. Sell to him anyway. Go figure it out, homie. You
No, I
know?
love that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So yeah, what other questions can I answer? I'm, happy to kind of dialogue about this.
So one of the things that I remember like somebody teaching me at some point was I run like a service-based business, but I do like a couple different services. And so somebody told me, don't niche yourself, niche your products.
Yeah.
And I want to know your opinion on that.
So your talents are probably far more reaching than just the niche, right? So when they say niche your products, they're probably talking about packaging a product. And I'll tell you why that's a really great thing to do, because it makes the buyer experience move much more quickly. So your sales cycle shuts down. It gets a lot shorter, which we love. So when you can package something in a way that is designed specifically for you, even if it's actually would work for 17 different people, if the marketing makes them feel like this was tailor-made for them, even if it's service, if it feels like it's tailor-made for them, they're going to respond in kind. They'll be like, this, I have to buy this. It's as though they wrote it just for me. But your talents are not limited to that. But if you want to package it, you're just going to sell it a lot faster. So where you read that is what I believe they meant. But I don't know where you read it, but that's what I believe they meant by that. So yeah. So Pat, whenever you can niche, I mean, think about it like, you guys, I'm sure, get stalked on your Instagram, with different things that the algorithm has figured out that you're interested in, either based on your age or your gender or where you live or what things you like or don't like. And I get a lot of, and they know me, that I get a lot of like skincare products. So here I am, I'm in my 40s, I'm fair skinned. So anything that has SPF is going to matter, although everybody should be using SPF, not just the girls who glow in the dark like I do. But but nonetheless, eye cream or, stuff that's like, oh, get this for your teenager who's graduating. I'm like, I wonder if they know that my kid's graduating, whatever, And it's not that that's the only product or service that is offered. It's just they know that's the one I'd want. So again, the demographic, psychographic. So when you come to sell, you can be a chameleon about what you sell. Don't spread yourself too thin. I don't want to encourage that, but you can offer multiple things. But when you're trying to, niche down or whatever, again, do it in the packaging and do it in the marketing. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
No, you did for sure. You did for sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys want me to ask some of these questions on the list?
Yeah, I have a question that's kind of on the list, but it's not entirely on the list. But I am curious, outside of social media for a business, what are your top 3 things that you would encourage people to take on in terms of marketing instead of social media? Or not instead, but in addition.
No, that's okay. Let's say social media went away, which it won't, but let's say it goes away. A couple of things that I would do is remarket to your existing audience. So what I mean by that is reach out to them via email, reach out to them even by snail mail, believe it or not. Like as certain things go away, sometimes they become hot again because fewer people are using them. Your previous customers or existing client base are going to be one of the greatest resources you have as to how to make your marketing more effective. So kind of reaching out to them and then asking them, especially as a service-based business, asking them if there's anybody else in their world that needs what you do for them. So, Nichole, I don't know what you offer, but, let's say that you are, offering housekeeping or something like that, some kind of service where people come to the house. Most of the time, those people are going to have neighbors who probably make about the same amount that they do, right? So birds of a feather flock together. So let's figure out if this is a problem I've solved for you, who else in your life can I solve this problem for? So that's one. And email marketing, again, is another way to kind of stay in front of them, which I count as digital, but not necessarily social media. And what's great is that email, one, it's intimate. Yes, everybody gets a million emails, which is why there's a whole science behind, your subject lines and stuff like that. But again, they've already agreed to you communicating with them. So anytime you can reach out to them, and it's a really effective way to segment an audience too. Again, kind of going back to the baseball fan thing, you can separate it out. Like, let's say you're servicing a whole bunch of groups of people. You can say, all right, for all my Yankee fans, here you go. Here are my Met fans. Here are my non-baseball or sports ball, or I hate sports fan. You can segment them out, and then the message you send them is different. So while I do believe that social media has a wonderful place in digital marketing, it's not my favorite for lead generation. It's actually much more of an awareness space. Like, I like to segment it from lead generation to demand generation. Like, social media is great for creating a demand for something. Like, oh, I know I need to have this latest whatever. TikTok shop is brilliant at doing this. They'll be like, oh my God, guys, you don't understand. If you put this cream on your face, you are going to look like, whatever, Ariana Grande, whomever it is.
Toddler.
Right, exactly.
I'm into buying that stuff all the time.
Right. TikTok shop, it's like it controls your brain. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so influenced right now. I can't even handle myself. So, but what's interesting about that is it's creating a demand. Like, you didn't go on TikTok to find the latest makeup thing or the latest, eye cream or t-shirt or whatever it is. It's created the demand in you. So I like social media from a demand generation standpoint, whereas I like other activities for lead generation. So again, lead generation, I would lean more into like ads or email or something like that. So while social media has its place, I see it more, if you guys are familiar with a sales funnel, like top, middle, and bottom of a sales funnel, I see social media in much more of a top, maybe middle, not so much a bottom of the funnel activity. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Sense. I have a weird question. This is not
I love weird questions.
I just thought of this. So this is not in a way to like create a sales pitch to convince people to use marketing. I think, we're all on this call, or if you're watching this podcast, you obviously understand how important marketing is for your business. But back when I was 2021, I was an assistant for a leader of a marketing company, and my job was to go out to businesses and try to convince them to let us write their radio ads or, billboards, do all that stuff for them. And the biggest question, we were going to automotive shops, and these guys were like, I'm just trying to change tires. Like, I don't even understand why I need this. And as, a 20-year-old, I couldn't explain it to them. I was like, I don't know, my boss told me to be here. Like, please sign this. So I think we all understand how important marketing is, but for a new entrepreneur that's just starting out that maybe doesn't have a huge budget, what would you recommend are like some really easy things that they can do right away that they'll get a good return on?
That's a great question. So again, niche down even more than you realize. Network. It doesn't really matter what you offer. Networking is really the number one. Social media, having a presence on social media, again, it's really what I would say is number two. They're kind of interchangeable, but networking, again, depending on what it is that you offer, it's inexpensive. Oftentimes you can go for the price of a cup of coffee. You don't necessarily have to join a group. It's definitely what I do. Digital marketing. It's what got my company off the ground. Was networking, because even though I was a marketing agency, I didn't have any money. So even though I can do it, like, I don't have the money because, things like ads or whatever, there's an ad spend. You have to feed the beast. So, and I still network. Network is still 15 years now, and I still network, and it's still, not the most scalable way, but certainly the most effective way to bring in new business, on a one-to-one basis. As you start to scale as a business, you need other people out networking and doing other things and stuff like that. But, and then I would be very specific about, because you'll burn out doing that too, about where you network. So that was a bit of a trial by fire. I would ask around and say, so what did you get out of that networking meeting? And also learning the art of the network too, because showing up with your business card, although most people kind of have them on their phones now, it's not an actual card. Well, some people still have physical cards. They're like, buy my card, buy my stuff, buy me, whatever. Like, that's not how you do it. Like, a lot of people, there's a loss in the art of introducing yourself. Is sure, you can give yourself some identifying qualities, but an introduction isn't an opportunity to spill your resume all over someone's shoes. It's really an invitation to connect. And I think that's a lost art. I do think that people forget that when they go to a networking meeting, that the idea is to get the vibe of the place, but also to kind of connect with other people and learn about them. And some of the most ineffectual networkers I've ever seen are the ones that kind of vomit their resume and they're like, well, tell me what you think about me. Here's all the wonderful things and here's my resume. Okay, slow down, bro. We're gonna get back to that. Really glad that you went to whatever school that doesn't matter now because you're 80 years old. So, you know, like there's a miss thing, whereas you may find, and I have found this too, that people who were just some randoms that I originally had networked with have subsequently become very close friends of mine, some of whom were actually at the event, Kacey, where and there was a mastermind that kind of that was born of a networking meeting that that network has been so influential on me as a human, like forget the business part of it, but me as a human, it's forced me to challenge my own, and you could say like limiting beliefs, but like spots where I was an asshole, like, wow, I'm not being cool at all. Like, this is so not the way to do this. Like, I needed some growth, and having those ladies, and again, I recognize I was very lucky in this, but to reflect back, like, are you limiting yourself that way? Or are you hiding? What are you hiding from? Are you hiding from yourself? I'm like, well, why don't you scratch? Like, don't ask me what I'm hiding from, you know, like having that, because the interesting thing about being an entrepreneur too, and this is where the networking part is also very helpful, is when you speak to your friends, your girlfriends or whatever, and I think we touched on this a little bit, Kacey, too, it's lonely. So like when you're an entrepreneur, people don't realize, like, they're like, oh, I work for Bank of America and my husband works for the government or whatever. And they're like, have their own lives. And I'm not impugning that in any way. But knowing that you might not cover payroll, or one of your vendors might not get paid, or something like that, like that's real. That's very, very scary. And then you get everybody paid, and then the kid asks you, they want to take, you know, they want to go to play football or something like that. And you're like, awesome. How much are shoulder pads? Jesus Christ. So like there's an element of camaraderie that is not just helpful but necessary, because it really is a unique experience, because we're all out of our minds that we decided to do this on our own when there are perfectly good jobs to just go get, you know, like we're out of our minds. So again, I kind of veered away from marketing on that, but to answer your question in a more succinct way, which clearly I'm not very good at, is networking one of the cheapest ways to get there. I think that's what you
I love it. Thank you. No, I love that so much.
I think that I love that you said that, because that's something I've been like focusing on this year, is like more networking. And I felt like I had moved from New York to South Carolina. In New York, I had my own wellness center and I was with a group of women. So it was just this constant influx of like life force and ideas. And then I moved here and I was like, you know what, I can do everything online. And
Right.
so I have, and then, you know, obviously COVID hit the minute I got here. And so it was this wild adventure. And so I've started getting into that place where I'm like, this is lonely. I don't know how to even reach new clients because I'm not in person anymore. I'm not seeing people regularly. So networking was definitely something that put me out of my comfort zone. And luckily I've been invited to speak at a lot of wonderful events, which has created an opportunity for me to show up as the expert off the bat, which has helped ton. But I've found that just getting to know people, and then I usually just ask them, like, what are some, you know, networking events that you absolutely love, that you feel like you've got like peak value? And just those conversations have been so helpful that I'm not just trying to go anywhere with anyone, that I'm really looking at, okay, where am I going to get the most value for the type of connection I'm looking for? And I found for me, like an immersive retreat or house for me was a better fit than going to a summit with 500 people.
Agreed.
And honestly, like I sold the most amount of, like I do retreats and I do, you know, speaking events and that kind of stuff. I sold the most amount to people who were at the networking event, who, you know, just knew somebody who would love what I do. You know, I have to introduce you to my sister, or I have to introduce you to my uncle, or whatever the case might be, that those opportunities were bigger lead gens than a lot of things that I had been doing.
So it's like a professional matchmaker. Like, you know, if you've ever been like out with a sibling or a friend or whatever, and then you know somebody else and they're both single and you're like, there's an opportunity here. Vibe check, right? You know, it's like, I feel like there could be a connection. Well, we have like professional matchmakers informally in networking as well. And one of the greatest assets, and I mean this so sincerely, it'll like make me get choked up when I think about like the girls that are in my mastermind, and then some of the girls that were actually at the event, one of whom is in my mastermind, which it's kind of a joke that we even call it a mastermind now. But and a couple of the girls that were at that event. And then just a handful. And again, it's not a huge network. I do have a very large network, but as you guys know, there's kind of different circle levels. Like, there's the ones that you're like, oh yeah, I know somebody who does that. Let me put you in touch with them. And then there's the other ones where, you're out on a beach and, decide that somebody's going to flash the other one. Their top comes off and we're howling at the moon. Like there's like crazy stuff that happens too, And then those people are your professional friends, but it is so transcended, the professional sphere, if you will. But I saw this, and I think it was on IG that I saw it, that said, the ones who will mention your name in a room full of opportunities, those are your real ones. And I have those, and I am that. So I just feel like there's, again, there's a lost art in networking and being very specific and intentional about your time, because as much as I can be, I feel like I'm an ambivert, because sometimes I can be very animated and like I love talking to people, and then they will absolutely bioenergetic vampire me to death, and I'm like, all right, I need everyone to go away, far away, and don't speak to me. And I have a family, as I'm sure we all do to some degree, and I don't, by that I mean I have a spouse and I have children, but we all have families to some degree, or our people, and we want a quart of reserve for them when we come back from these networking events. So be very intentional, because you can burn out on that too. But like you said, retreats are kind of my jam. Like again, with the mastermind, we went to Greece and we did a yoga retreat in this like island in Greece. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was the best. And we had so much fun. But there's also, again, opportunities that are just so organic because it's a vibe check. And it's like, oh, you do something I need? Cool, let's talk. Like it's such a different experience. I wish that were truly scalable. And I love that that's what you do too. Like it's just such a great gig. Jelly. It's a good one. Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. So yeah, so what else can I answer? I'd love to actually learn a little bit more about Chelsea and Angelica and Nicole's businesses too. But again, I don't know if you guys already do that on the podcast, but whether that's offline or now, I'd love to learn about you guys as well.
Yeah. I can just share really quickly, and I mean, we can definitely talk more, Trish. My husband and I own a mortgage company here in Charlotte. We started it back in January, so we're almost a year in. I do all the marketing for the company, so I could actually learn a lot from you. Right now we're targeting not so much clients on social media, but other, like industry partners and professionals.
Oh yeah, strategic. I'm glad you said that, because strategic partnerships for somebody in your situation, that's really the way to go for sure. That's great. Strategic relationships. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's working out. We had tried targeting clients in the past with a previous company, and it just, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not passionate about following my bank on social media. I don't really care what programs are available until I need one. So the engagement was pretty low there, but like with our posts now, and we try to, highlight our numbers and celebrate our team members that are doing really well. And I would say 90% of our engagement are other industry professionals. So I think it's going well, but I've definitely got a lot to learn. So I would love to talk to you offline.
Yeah. And I would say for that, because there are a lot of people that are in your industry, and this will be beneficial to anybody who listens to this too, is again, kind of the niching down. I would say USP, which is, fancy marketing speak for unique selling proposition, and or, basically your positioning. So is there a group that you serve, or is there a way that you serve them that's a little bit different? Doesn't have to be drastically different, but a little bit different than other people do. So like there's a guy here in Charlotte that does similar to what you do, and he's very nerdy, and that's kind of his positioning, in that he'll do like a full spreadsheet on, rates and, different opportunities that exist within the kinds of mortgages that you can get. And he'll do like a spreadsheet really for free for his clients. So that's just kind of like a nerdy, but he's like, he lives for that. He's like Captain Nerdy Pants. So he's all about that. In your case, it might be something different, where there's like, oh, well, my husband and I are doing this together, and here are the two pieces that we both bring together. So you kind of get two for the price of one. Like that might be a USP for you. Whereas other people might just be like, well, it's just me and my brain. Where it's like, well, we've got these two, and here are the melding of the two can actually get you, double trouble kind of a deal. So there's other ways that you can do this that will separate you just enough that if people like, I don't know, I'd really rather, work with them. And sometimes, whether it's a real estate agent or an individual person, some people feel more comfortable with men, some people feel more comfortable with women. You offer both. So like there's that opportunity as well. So just food for thought. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, and just like a quick overview of my work, I am an intuitive therapist. I've been helping people step back into their power for the last 15 years with their mindset,
Wow.
intuition, and energy. I have 2 books, a podcast, I host retreats, I see people one-on-one, and I have an online membership. So we're doing it. And now with Visionary Blueprint. So we're also very excited about what we're creating here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have a specific like when you're helping people with their like intuitive health, is there a specific niche with whom you work? Or do you work with people who have trauma? I mean, I don't know anybody who like technically doesn't have trauma, but you know, you can't walk around on this planet in this skin suit and not have trauma. But I'm just curious if there's like a specific niche or a specific brand of something that you're working with when you're working with people.
I usually work with women like 30 to 50 or 35 to 55, that range where they have started to move out of sacrificing themselves exclusively for children and are starting to kind of figure out who they are again. And so I help them really step out of autopilot and back into how am I intentionally living my life and how do I intentionally feel about myself.
See, that's great because I do think that this happens so often with parents. One, when your kids are very young, you can actually fool yourself into thinking that you're never going to be you again, that you're just like your only role is to I mean, you're literally feeding them from your body and you're like, dude, like I'm going to use the restroom by myself, all by myself. And or that you are, you know, and I'm not impugning anyone's spouse or anything like that, but that you are just kind of like a vehicle. There's just a lot of hats we have to wear. You have to be sexy, you have to be nurturing, you have to be powerful. And really, can I just be tired and fat and like gross right now? Like, do I have to be all these things? You know, like, do I have to be all these things? And the have to is very cultural too. And it's not just American culture, but other cultures too. And I genuinely don't believe that we're humans with a soul. I think we're souls with a body is really how I look at it. It's like we're at our truest form. We're really just souls, which really doesn't come into the cultural or, you know, gender nomenclature or anything like that. It really is like this singular piece that's kind of all melded together. And it's us who kind of get confused by segmenting it off. So I love that that's the work that you do. I'm fascinated by it. And like I said, a little jelly of it because it's just, I wish I kind of came to that at an earlier stage in my life because I just think that that stuff is really necessary and powerful and it'll never go out of style. So I think that's great. So good for you, girl. I think that's great.
And that's really where Visionary Blueprint was birthed, was I was working with some male business coaches and I kept saying to Kacey and Chelsea, I'm like, these people are not the dominant like parent in their house. And I can tell because the amount of time we all have as mothers to commit to our business and to figure things out and to grow our business is so substantially smaller because we are the default person in our household typically.
Right.
So we're doing it all. And so I was like, I want to create a space where women can come and get their questions answered. And Kacey and Chelsea were just so freaking on board with it. And I think that's also, we're talking about networking, that's the magic in collaborations. I put out a Facebook post like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and Kacey commented on it and, you know, put myself out there and we've been connected and we're able to create something for women in business together because of that.
I think that's awesome because I think very much like being a parent, being an entrepreneur, you're birthing something, you're bringing something forth, you're teasing out it to be the best iteration that it can be. And I think where people, and it's only been truly articulated as mothers, I would say in the last several years, but I feel like it translates to entrepreneurship too, which is the mental load and like the invisible labor that comes with, oh God, I got to get back in touch with that person. Or did I send that out? I was like, did I pay my taxes? Do I need a lawyer? What do I like? What? But then it's like, oh, well, you know, and I went through this personally, like my 7th grader, you know, changed schools and is having trouble building connections. And what I can't be is a 12-year-old boy. I can love that kid till the days come home, but I cannot teach him how to connect with a 12-year-old boy when A, I've never been one, and B, I am not one right now. So like there, you know, like there's, and you're just thinking about this, and it's literally labor that you're working on. There's nothing you can do except support him in the way that you are built and his role in your life is that's the only way you can support him. So there's a lot of that, everything to like, you know, making appointments for everybody to go to the doctor. It sounds absurd, but like, it's just these ridiculous things. And I do believe that, and I'm very lucky too, because I have an extremely strong partner in my husband. He has his own version of mental load, and very recently was laid off from BDO. So like there's this like financial pressure, even though I'm earning money too, I'm not the boy, right? So there's this weird cultural pressure that sits on him too, even if I'm making cash. It doesn't really matter. Like, oh, so your wife's doing it? It's like, now he's an evolved human. He's like, yeah, my wife's a badass. Like, this isn't a thing, but it's a little bit of a thing. And it's like something that we have to kind of shake off. It's like, oh, don't worry, you know, dad's babysitting. Like, no, dad's parenting. That's a whole ass verb. Like he's parenting too. But again, it kind of it is. It's not just a title, it's a verb. But the mental load still sits on us too. Like, even though like, all right, well, just, you know, so you know, if you're blessed enough, if you're lucky enough, if, you know, universe has provided you with a good partner, like you realize that even though you guys are kind of complementary, there's still going to be unique mental load for both. But it's a real deal with women, and I can speak to it, you know, personally, especially when my kids were younger and they were eating from my body. Like it's a whole thing, man.
I just finished that. My daughter turned 1 last week. I'm in the trenches.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, it's a thing. My older one was not as good of a latcher, and I was like, awesome. So this is what razor blades feel like on my boobs. Awesome. Whereas my younger son was like a champ. He was born to do it. It's just very funny. But again, unique experiences for everybody. Boy, this is not marketing at all. I apologize. Oh gosh. So I want to see if I have any other questions you guys want me to answer. I'm like, can look through the list as well.
Well, Angelica, I hope you're still there. Hi. She also has little kids and all the things. Do you have any questions? I feel like everything she was talking about, you know, how we just got off of our call and you're like, I want to do a media kit and offer very specific things for. I feel like that all like resonated so well. But since you kind of are still, you know, trying to like find your exact groove, are there any kind of marketing questions that you have?
Yeah. So like 2 sentences for my business. So I'm community director of the Houston chapter of Ladies Lifestyle Network. And I recently launched a systems business, teaching small business owners and entrepreneurs about systems and strategy and processes and things like that. So
nice.
I love, like, just a comment on this, like doing business as a woman is so different than doing business as a man. No matter what they say, I think the strategies, sure, we can take, but like, we have families, the way we aesthetically, what we want to see, it is different. And that's what this stuff is for. So that's really, really great. Right. Especially, I mean, I'm an engineer and I'm doing like, you know, the very method.
Sure.
I can't say it right now, but it's good. Okay. So my question on marketing is like copywriting, right? Because I think a lot of brand new entrepreneurs, copywriting, and we touched a little bit on that, but also getting over the sales mindset. Like, I'm selling to somebody and I know sharing, right? I'm sharing with somebody and I know that's what we're doing, but how, like, do you have any?
I got you, girl. I got you.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do for you. Okay. So you'll appreciate this given the fact that you have an engineering mind. Do not speak in process. Do not speak in sharing. Don't speak in any of that stuff. What you're doing is you're building solutions with outcomes. That's what you're doing for your client base. And what you're doing is the outcome. That's the part you're going to focus on the most, is the outcome. So what's the outcome of a better process? Let me ask you that one. You're like, well, I don't know. What's the process? Yes, you do. It's
no, save time and money. They're saving time and money.
Exactly right. So save time, save money. It's easier. You might be able to save money. How am I going to save money? Well, it's going to work faster, or you might need fewer staff members to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that, but it's true, right? Or those staff members can be utilized in more of a sales role and not a process role, which is a revenue generating activity. So what if you redistribute them? So if the process here is faster, well, I don't want to fire anybody because that's mean. Whatever, redistribute them and make sure that they're making you money then. Yeah. So, and when you can deliver whatever it is you deliver faster, you might be able to take on more. And your clients are happier, which means they may buy more and they may refer more. So saving time is saving money, and saving money is saving time. So like there's ways to do this in a meaningful way. So when you're selling whatever specific thing it is you're selling, you lead with, wouldn't it be great if you could just save time and money? Because that's what I specialize in. Dead
Okay.
stop, say nothing else. And they're like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked me. So why can't you make money? And then ask them more questions. Wouldn't you
Okay.
like to more time? Okay, cool. In what way? What's keeping you from saving money right now? Why not fix it yourself? Like, what are you, why are you saying this out loud? Like, how come you can't fix it? What's wasting your money? What's wasting your time? And make
Yeah.
feel the weight of how much it sucks that they haven't hired you yet.
Yeah.
Like make them feel the weight of it. And then, and it sounds like it's mean, like, oh, well, I'm bringing out negative feelings. No, you are highlighting negative feelings and you are going to provide them with a solution. That's not the same thing as being like, wow, doesn't it suck to be you? It's not the same thing. But when you can help them crystallize what they're, because they'll get in their own way. So much so. It's so funny because I do have, and I hate this is going to sound so sexist, but like particularly dudes, because I'm in the tech field to a degree, even marketing in tech field. So like we'll talk to them and they're like, well, I know I can do all this, I'm just too busy and I'm like, okay. So you already know totally everything about what I'm about to tell you. Okay, cool.
If you
So
knew it, then you
you
would
know
do
this
it already.
Yeah, I know you know everything already. It's cool, cool, cool. I'm so glad for you that you know everything already. So I know you know this already, but I'm just going to walk through the process so that we're both in alignment. Like I'll like reframe it so that they can take the pressure off of having to know everything so that they'll actually let me help them. But a lot of times it's really just, you have to kind of provide them with, I'm so glad you can do that on your own, but I can do it faster because I don't have any other time in the world except to do it for you. That's the only thing I'm doing. So, but you're too busy and important to do it yourself, which is fine. I just find that when you can reframe it in a way where you're leaning into the solution, whatever the pain point is, comes out a little bit faster. So in any of the marketing or any of the media kits that you do, stay away from the details and the minutia of what you actually, because the truth is you don't even necessarily know until you get in there and see how jacked up their process is in the first place. Like you probably have a process to figure out what that process needs to be, but they don't even need all that because if they knew processes, they wouldn't hire you. So you lean into what the outcome will be. And then you're knowing what their outcome will be will provide more income for you. So, yeah, so that's the direction I would go. That's the framework I would lead with, which is very outcome heavy. They talk about features and benefits was something I was taught years ago in sales, leaning into the benefits, not the features so much. Like, oh, you should buy radio because radio reaches out to, 3 million people. That's a feature. Well, your message is going to be heard and you're going to be in front of people who want to buy from you. Now you're getting into the benefit. Like, wouldn't it be great if you can get in front of a bunch of people who really might need what you do? That's a benefit. How you do that, that's the feature. So you just stay with it now. So I hope that helps.
It does. Well, and also just in general, like it was more, I think I'm struggling when Kacey and I talk, I'm struggling more with that, with the whole networking messaging on that particularly. Right. Just because like there's a whole history of everything, right? Everybody has a whole history of why they act the way they act and what their struggle.
Sure. I have a formula for you if you want, that is really great for when people ask you what you do. And I can send it to you if you want, but it's basically like, and I'll give you an example. And for what it's worth with your copywriting, ChatGPT is your friend. It's one of my favorite things to use. I actually like Claude as well. The key with chat is appropriate prompts. So just make sure that you're not just saying like, I need words for this. Like it needs to be very specific, like function as a marketing expert and give me 3 sentences on what I do for a living and why that's beneficial. Boom. And it'll come up with several different. So like be really, really specific about your prompts. But again, like a formula that I use is if somebody asks you what you do, and again, I use an example here, you can say, well, I'm a divorce attorney. And it's like, okay, now I know what you do. Cool, that's helpful. Or you can say, I help couples who are struggling in their marriage stop being husband and wife, but stay being mom and dad.
Oh.
So now not only do you know what kind of divorce attorney I am, but you know that I can not only be a divorce attorney, but I specialize in parents. because not everybody
Yeah.
gets divorced as a parent, right?
Yeah.
You know, or you can say, you may want to hire us before your spouse does. Now you know what kind of divorce attorney I am too. Do you know, like, like, so a
Yeah.
lot of it you can put spin on who you are, how you deliver what you do. So the formula that I like to say is, I don't like the word help because you're actually being hired to do this, but I support X to achieve Y through Z.
Okay.
So I support small business owners to save time and money through process development, something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm taking notes, Trish.
No, I-
Well, I think
Like my
it's
whole
being
notebook.
recorded anyway,
I
right?
know.
So
I'm like, I've seen Nichole taking notes the whole time. So it's like, I don't need to. I know she's got it because all of this is so good. I'm just like, hey,
well, and
look.
you recorded it, so you can kind of pull out the parts that you want and whatever. But yeah, I mean, those formulas, they're so simplistic, but it's so much more beneficial that when you're meeting somebody, one, it's warmer. You're like, I'm a divorce attorney, you know, I do marketing. Really, you're a blonde woman who does marketing? That's new. Never heard of that before, you know, like, oh, welcome to the club. There's none of us here. So, you know, like, I feel like every director of marketing I meet is like a blonde white lady. That's just absurd. So like you do want to kind of separate yourself out in a way. And it's also just, like I said, a warmer introduction to kind of say like what I do is, and really are you guys familiar with the Japanese concept of ikigai? Have you ever heard of this? Okay, so this is a fun one. You guys might want to look it up. So it's basically a Venn diagram, and it's like what you do, what you can get paid for, what you love, and how it supports the world. And like you have those four things kind of cross over, and in the middle, it's ikigai, and it's like your perfect job. It feels to me like, Nichole, you probably have that. Like, you know, how can I support the world? What do I love to do? Like, what am I really good at? And what can I get paid to do? And you can do all those things. It's an ikigai. So it's a really cool concept, so that, you know, when you're trying to figure out, or, you know, what you're doing, and when you're kind of coming up with a formula of describing what it is you do, it's so much more impactful for people to hear your impact on the world. The money part comes later. That it's presumed that you're going to be paid for this, but it's so much more impactful to say, so this is how I support my corner of the world, and this is the skill that I bring to the table, and this is what I love to do. All of a sudden, people are like, man, I will listen to you all day. You know, it's a very different animal than just, you know, I'm an engineer and I do processes. Like, okay, cool. Like it's just it's a warmer. And then people also know how to refer you better too. You know, like if you specifically say, like, I work with parents to dissolve their marriage, but stay functional, you know, as mom and dad, like, boom, I know exactly what kind of client you need, you know? So, yeah.
I love your creative brain. I feel like so inspired by you. We are gonna have to have you back. If we could kind of like close out with like one piece of really good advice that would apply to as many people listening, which would primarily be obviously female entrepreneurs, what
Sure.
advice would you give?
I guess it's twofold, going back to the thing I said in the very beginning, which is about mindset. So understand what you want to do with your own life, how you want to spend your own time, and knowing that your unique gifts, you know, like we're all like delicate little unique flowers and snowflakes and stuff, but it's true, like we are different. And what you bring is not going to look like what everybody else brings, and it's not supposed to. But bigger than that, understand that every person you work with, every customer that you encounter, whether they're buying a product or a service, also has layers and depth and complexity just like you do. So when you come to the table and you're going to serve whomever it is that you serve, and you recognize that each person that your brand is in touch with has, you know, has parents, or they lost a dog, or they got a flat tire, or their boyfriend broke up with them, or whatever it is, that you become so much more of an empathetic copywriter, like package builder, service provider, when you can come to the table and recognize that these people all have a depth to them. You don't have to get lost in it, but it will make you so much more of an effective marketer, because ultimately people buy based on their emotions and how you make them feel, not necessarily what you're selling. So when you can remember that all the humanity you bring to the table, they bring to the table too. And if you can connect there, you're much better off you'll be a much more effective marketer and person, but for our purposes today, marketer. So
Trish, I have to say, I have like chills from a lot of stuff that you said today.
oh my gosh, that's so great. Oh my gosh, now you gave me chills. Woo. Gotta love those right there. Woo. So thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that. So yeah. Well, this is great. I love that you guys are doing this podcast, and I wish you the best with it too, because these things can be a little hard to launch, but if you show up with substance and you find the right market, it'll take off.
Yeah. No, we're so grateful to have you and your expertise. I know we have a questionnaire that we will drop in the bio of this video. If you enjoyed this conversation and you want to be part, we will be doing a live podcast every other week on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. For now, they're going to be on Zoom, but they will be in that Facebook group that is attached to the questionnaire. But we want to get to know what you guys need from us, what kind of experts we can bring in. And that helps Kacey, Chelsea, and I create an environment and a podcast that is exclusively for you. Our goal is to really help women grow and expand in your business. So we want to not just talk at you, we really want to talk with you. So again, that's why we're hosting these live podcasts, and you can join by answering the questionnaire in the bio. And Trish, where can they work with you? Because I know everyone's going to want to like rush over to you and get on.
I actually kind of forgot about that part. So my company is GoBeyond SEO, and you'll see me. I'm on there. I'm on the About Us page, and I'm sure there's multiple spots there. I know that there's multiple spots there because I built a website that says that you can like book an appointment with me. I also have an Instagram page, which is really not terribly marketing heavy. It's just more my goofy sense of humor and pictures of like my dog and my kids and stuff. But you can reach out to me there too. And that's Dish with Trish, and that's DISHWITRISH, and that's on IG. So you can follow me there. So yeah, that's it. But I really appreciate you guys having me on the call, and Chelsea, I appreciate the compliment. But again, I feel it's just kind of like a warm, synergistic conversation. Sometimes, again, it doesn't always work that way. So I appreciate that you guys are curating a space where conversations like this can happen.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Trish.
We will drop all of your information into the link so that people can get connected with you immediately, and we will definitely have you back.
Right on. Thanks so much, guys.